The Galactic Council Hall was filled with chatter and laughter as Captain Elias stepped inside. Dozens of alien leaders watched him, their eyes full of amusement. They had expected a weak, nervous human begging for peace. Instead, Elias walked with calm confidence, his boots echoing across the marble floor. Some whispered insults, others smirked openly. To them, this meeting was nothing more than a formality. Humans were too small, too young as a species to be taken seriously. Elias stood before the long table, meeting each alien's gaze without flinching. Then, without a word, he tapped the small device on his wrist. At first, it was faint, a deep, metallic hum, like the distant beat of a colossal drum. The sound rolled through the chamber, vibrating in the floor, rattling the glasses on the table. The laughter began to fade. Council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The sound grew louder, heavier, as if something massive was approaching. One alien delegate frowned, leaning closer to another. "What is that?" he whispered. No one had an answer. Elias did not speak. He simply waited, letting the noise fill the space. The hum was no longer just sound. It was a feeling pressing into their chests, making it hard to breathe. A few guards stepped toward the doors, glancing outside as if expecting danger. The smug expressions were gone now. In their place was unease and a growing fear. Something was coming, and for the first time, the council began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The sound outside the council chamber deepened, like a giant heartbeat mixed with the growl of thunder. Every second, it grew clearer, heavier, until the walls themselves seemed to tremble. Council members glanced at each other, their earlier confidence slipping away. The air felt thick, charged, as though the room had been sealed inside an unseen storm. A young alien diplomat leaned forward, his voice tight. "What is that, human?" Elias looked at him calmly, his expression unreadable. "That," he said, "is the reason you will stop laughing." His words were quiet, but they cut through the tension like a blade. Outside the massive window, faint lights began to appear in the darkness of space. At first, they looked like stars, but as they drew closer, the shapes became clearer, a single, black warship, moving without visible engines, gliding silently through the void. Its size was monstrous, dwarfing any known vessel. The hum they heard was not machinery alone. It was the vibration of its colossal power systems coming online. Gasps broke the silence. One alien muttered, "Impossible! That ship is a myth." Another replied, "Then we are staring at a ghost." The ship slowed as it approached the station, its hull swallowing the light, its shadow stretching across the council's view. Weapons the size of buildings rested along its sides, dormant yet unmistakably deadly. Elias finally smiled, just slightly. "You wanted to meet humanity," he said softly. "Now, you will meet our guardian." And outside, the ship's presence only grew more menacing. The warship loomed closer, its black surface reflecting nothing, as if it absorbed the very light around it. The council chamber grew silent, except for the deep vibration that seemed to pulse through the floor. Delegates who had once mocked the humans now stared, their eyes wide with unease. Even the seasoned military leaders present shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Through the wide observation window, the ship's details became terrifyingly clear. Rows of massive rail cannons lined its flanks, their barrels large enough to swallow a small shuttle. Strange blue patterns glowed faintly across its armor, a technology no alien in the room recognized. The vessel moved slowly, deliberately, as if fully aware of the fear it was causing. Zareth, the council's supreme leader, leaned forward, trying to mask his concern. "What is the purpose of this display, Captain Elias?" His voice was calm, but his hand gripped the armrest tightly. Elias met his gaze without blinking. "To correct a misunderstanding. You think we are weak. This is to show you we are not." As if on cue, the ship rotated in place, revealing its underside, a massive, circular weapon that glowed faintly, like the heart of a dying star. No one knew what it was, but everyone in the room felt the same instinct. If that thing fired, nothing could survive. One delegate whispered, "If this is their warning, I do not wish to see their anger." The ship continued its slow, menacing turn, and the council realized they were now playing a dangerous game they could not win. The council chamber felt smaller now, the towering windows framing the relentless presence of a human warship outside. Its shadow stretched across the station like the hand of a predator. The deep hum was constant, a reminder that the vessel was alive, waiting. Zaratha's voice cut through the tense silence. "Is this intimidation, Captain Elias? Do you wish to threaten the entire council?" His words carried authority, but there was a crack in his tone, a subtle hint of unease. Elias took a step forward, his boots echoing on the polished floor. "I wish only to protect my people," he said calmly. "But I will not let you mistake kindness for weakness." His eyes moved from face to face, studying the shifting expressions. The smirks were gone. Even the most arrogant delegates avoided his gaze. Beyond the glass, the warship began a slow drift, rotating to show its massive side batteries, each weapon humming faintly with restrained power. It was not firing, it didn't need to. The message was already clear. One alien general shifted in his seat, his scaled hands tightening into fists. "Do you realize what you've done? You've brought a warship into a peace negotiation." Elias allowed a faint smile. "Peace," he said softly, "is why it's here." For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the ship's low, steady heartbeat. Somewhere deep inside, the council members began to understand. This was not a negotiation between equals. This was a choice between survival and destruction. The warship's steady hum filled the chamber like a living thing, a constant reminder that humanity had brought something far beyond what the council had expected. No one dared to speak for several moments. Eyes shifted from the ship outside to Elias, as if searching for some sign that this was merely a show, a bluff. But Elias stood still, his face calm, his hands resting behind his back, the image of unshaken confidence. Finally, council leader Zareth leaned forward. "If you came seeking peace, why bring a weapon that can shatter worlds?" His tone was sharper now, but it could not hide the tension beneath. Elias's voice was low but carried to every corner of the hall. "Because you don't listen to words, only power. We offered peace before, and you mocked us. We came to speak again, this time, so you would hear." A ripple of unease moved through the chamber. One alien delegate muttered to another, "If this is their version of peace, I dread to imagine their war." Outside, the warship slowly adjusted its position, aligning perfectly with the council station, its largest rail cannon aimed directly at the main docking ring. The sound deepened, like the ship itself was breathing. It wasn't firing, but every heartbeat of the hum promised that it could, instantly and without mercy. Elias took a slow step forward. "I'm giving you a choice. You can sign the treaty and live beside us, or you can test the strength you think we don't have." For the first time, several alien leaders looked genuinely afraid. The laughter from earlier was gone. In its place was the heavy silence of beings realizing they were facing a predator they had never understood, and perhaps could never defeat. Outside the massive windows, the human warship began to move again. Not toward the council station, but into open space, as if to give a demonstration. The hull shifted slightly, and enormous panels unfolded along its sides, revealing the full scale of its weapon systems. Even the most battle-hardened alien generals had never seen such engineering. The blue patterns across its armor pulsed brighter, feeding power into something vast and unseen. Without warning, a beam of pure light erupted from one of its forward cannons. It struck a nearby asteroid, and in a single heartbeat, the massive rock split apart. The explosion lit the darkness, sending shards spinning away like burning stars. Gasps filled the chamber. No weapon in the known galaxy could do that with such precision or such terrifying ease. Elias didn't look at the display. His eyes stayed on the council, watching the growing fear in their expressions. "This is not a threat," he said evenly. "It is a fact. That ship exists. It will defend Earth. And if you force our hand, it will defend far more than that." One alien commander rose, his voice shaking. "You expect us to believe this is only for protection?" Elias tilted his head. "Believe what you wish. Just understand, if that beam had been aimed at this station, we would not be speaking now." The silence that followed was heavier than before. Even those who had been ready to argue now stared at the floor or the ship outside. The message was clear. Humanity's power was not just real. It was beyond anything they had ever prepared to face. The council chamber felt colder now, as if the shadow of the human warship had seeped into the very walls. The delegates sat stiffly, some exchanging uneasy glances, others avoiding eye contact altogether. Outside, the ship hovered in perfect stillness, its weapons quiet yet undeniably ready. It didn't need to move. Its very presence was enough to hold the room hostage. Elias stood at the center, silent, letting the tension grow. Every second, without words, was another second for fear to take root. He could see it in their eyes. The earlier arrogance was gone, replaced by calculation and doubt. Some of them were not thinking about winning anymore. They were thinking about surviving. Finally, one of the older alien diplomats broke the silence. "Captain Elias, if humanity has such a weapon, why seek peace at all? You could force your will upon the galaxy." Elias's expression didn't change. "Because we are not like you," he replied. "We do not conquer for sport. We do not kill to prove pride. We came here to build something better. But if you try to destroy us, we will end the threat before it begins." The ship outside gave a low, resonating pulse, almost like a heartbeat in answer to his words. The sound seemed to press against the glass, a reminder that it was listening, watching, and ready. Some delegates whispered nervously. Others sat in silence, weighing the risk. And deep down, they all understood the same truth. If this meeting ended badly, none of them would live to see another sunrise. Zareth finally rose from his seat, his long cloak sweeping the floor as he faced Elias. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. "Then speak plainly, human. What happens if the council refuses your treaty?" Elias took a slow breath, letting the room fall silent again. When he finally spoke, his tone was measured, almost gentle, which only made the words colder. "Then you will hear that sound again, only closer. And when you do, it will not be a warning." The sentence seemed to hang in the air like a blade. Outside, the warship's lights pulsed once, a deep blue glow rippling across its hull. The sound returned, a low, steady thrum that vibrated in the bones of every being present. It was not deafening, but it was relentless, a promise that could not be ignored. One delegate shifted nervously. "You would attack the entire council?" Elias's gaze was steady. "I would protect my people from anyone who threatens them, no matter how powerful they believe they are." The ship outside slowly adjusted its angle, aligning perfectly with the council chamber's massive windows. The sight was terrifying, an entire wall of weapons aimed directly at them, each one capable of ending the meeting in seconds. No one spoke now. Pride was crumbling under the weight of reality. The delegates who had laughed at humanity hours earlier were now staring at their own reflections in the glass, wondering if they were about to witness the last meeting they would ever attend. The silence in the chamber was so deep it felt like the air itself had stopped moving. No one dared to look away from the massive warship outside, its dark hull filling the entire view. Somewhere in the station, the faint hum of its power systems resonated like a slow countdown. Every delegate knew, if this ended the wrong way, they wouldn't even have time to scream. Finally, the council began the vote. Each leader pressed their hand to the glowing panels before them, signaling their choice. Some hesitated, their pride fighting against the cold truth, but the fear of annihilation was stronger. One by one, the panels lit green, acceptance of the treaty. Elias watched without expression. He didn't smile, didn't gloat. He simply observed as the final votes were cast. When the last green light appeared, he stepped forward and spoke in a clear voice. "The ship will stand down. Humanity will honor this peace. But remember, this day is not for fear. It is for understanding." Outside, the warship shifted slightly, its weapons lowering, the deep hum fading into silence. The tension in the room eased, but no one truly relaxed. Even disarmed, the ship's presence was like the shadow of a predator, unforgettable and never fully gone. Zareth inclined his head stiffly. "Then we have an agreement." Elias returned the gesture. "For now," he said quietly, the words carrying a weight that made more than one delegate shiver. The council had avoided destruction, but every one of them knew it was a narrow escape. As the meeting concluded, the chamber remained eerily quiet. No one laughed, no one whispered. The echoes of the earlier mockery were long gone, replaced by a tense respect, or perhaps fear, for the humans they had underestimated. Elias turned without haste, his footsteps steady as he walked toward the exit. Every pair of eyes followed him, but no one dared to speak. Through the towering windows, the human warship began to move away from the station. Its dark hull swallowed the starlight, making it appear almost like a moving shadow. Slowly, it rotated, revealing once more the colossal weapons that had silenced the council. Then, with a final pulse of its deep, resonating hum, it jumped into faster-than-light travel and vanished into the void. For several moments, the delegates simply sat in stunned silence. Some looked at each other, searching for words, but none came. The sound of that hum, that low, powerful vibration, lingered in their minds like a ghost. They knew it would stay there for the rest of their lives. Zareth finally broke the stillness. "Let it be remembered," he said quietly, "that on this day, the humans asked for peace, and we were wise enough to accept it." Far from the council, aboard the warship, Elias stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak past. There was no triumph in his eyes, only the calm certainty of someone who had made his point. Humanity had been mocked once. After today, no one in the galaxy would make that mistake again.